No problem.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah. So Anthony, let's get started. So, I mean, I know most of your past interviews are going to be talking about the Contender Series and how you got subbed. I mean, everyone agrees. Everyone agrees you should have gotten that UFC contract. But I mean, let's take a little bit to go back in time, reminisce a little bit. So, how'd you get started in the sport? And yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, of course. So I started with Taekwondo when I was around 5 years old. The whole purpose was to have some sort of self-defense, and it was the only thing that was kind of in my town. So I did Taekwondo from about 5 to 11, 12 years old. And then I wanted to find something else. I kind of lost interest in it. Not that the sport was bad or anything like that. It wasn't for me anymore. So I watched my first UFC fight. It was Anderson Silva and Patrick Cote. And after that, I just fell in love with it. I just love the idea that you could use all different types of martial arts instead of just one. So I really fell in love with it. And fortunately, a gym opened up in Welland of my town, and I just started doing martial arts there. I did kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and I started competing in small tournaments and all that. And then once I got a little bit better, I was on the national team for kickboxing. I went to the World Championships and the Pan American Championships. Same thing for jiu-jitsu, and I just fell in love with it. And then eventually, once I turned 18, I was able to compete in MMA, and this went on from there.
There you go. And then, so I was actually looking at your record. So you actually had a bunch of amateur fights before you turned pro. So what was the reason behind that? Was it because, I mean, from my experience, from what I've seen most people just have like 1 or 2 amateur fights and they just jump right in. But you had like over 10 fights. And yes, I mean, why was that? So why did you take so many amateur fights before going pro?
I think it's important to get that experience as an amateur, because once you turn pro, you can't go back. You can't erase your record pretty much. So the amateur circuit's more like a learning process, getting different types of opponents, wrestlers, strikers, all around MMA fighters. And then once you turn pro, you should be ready for whatever comes at you. You should be ready for whatever match you have. So that's kind of why I took 10 fights. Plus, I was still in school. I didn't turn pro until like my later years in university. So that's kind of the reason why. And I enjoyed it, but not everyone likes to get punched in the head for free. So
Yeah, and I mean, how was it though? How was your first amateur fight though? Like, were there already? I'm guessing there was nerves. 'Cause, I mean, you're going into an octagon to fight with another man. So, you know, how was the process that day? Like, you know, what was your mindset going into it?
I think it was mostly I was nervous like any fight, but I think the nerves came from the expectations that everybody had on me. From training martial arts since I was 5 years old, a lot of people talking about me, that I'm going to do big things and all that. So I think the nerves were kind of like, I wanted to fulfill everyone's expectations, which is kind of why the performance wasn't as good as it could have been. And plus, it was my first time putting everything together, which was pretty interesting for me, going to a different country and driving like 6 hours to Ohio. So it was just a different experience for me. But it was a great learning process for me. And then after that fight, everything kind of went together. And then obviously after my loss, everything got a little bit better. So.
And like, was it during like your amateur experience that like you got to train? I know on the broadcast for the Contender Series, they're talking about you had like a little training session with your idol, George St Pierre. So was it during your amateur career that you had that practice session, and how'd that come about? Was it through your coach or?
No, I did it myself. I organized it myself. I knew that TriStar is one of the top gyms in the world, and they have like the best athletes. Of course, Georges St Pierre trained out of there. So I went there just to get a different experience, train with new people, learn some new skills, and I definitely did. I didn't really expect George to be there. I thought he'd be somewhere around the world, but of course he was there when I went. I think it was during my amateur career. I can't remember exactly what fight, but I was around 17, maybe 18 years old. So that was a really cool experience, and I definitely learned a lot. And then after that, I just kept going for like once or twice a year. And yeah, just really cool experience.
I mean, that's insane though. I mean, like, especially at 17, and like you were saying that he's your idol. So like, I mean, you must have been starstruck. I mean, you could say like, yeah, no, I wasn't starstruck, but I wouldn't believe you would say that. So like, were you or?
Oh, of course, I was starstruck. It's funny because I say like I didn't even want to hit him because I didn't even know what was going on. Like you look at this guy and I'm like, oh, he's like actually in front of me, and I had to spar with this guy, and he was so nice. Like some fighters would just go all out on you; they don't really care who they're going against. But he was very respectful and helped me a lot. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to crush everybody in the sport. It's always good to learn and then help others. So I definitely really enjoyed that.
And definitely, I mean, like, how was it though? I mean, like, was just, I'm guessing it was like an all around like MMA type of sparring day. So like, when he went for takedowns, like, how was the pressure when he got one on top? Was it just insane or?
Oh yeah, I think it was just get a takedown and then stand back up. Lucky for me.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't even think I started wrestling all the time. I think I maybe went to a couple of practices at Brock at the university, but I didn't really know too much wrestling. So it was pretty cool. It really opened my eyes training with him.
hmm Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, as we keep it going on, like, your first pro fight, like you said, like, you had all those amateur fights for a reason, for you to be ready once you turn pro, because you can't go back. Um, was it the same type of mindset and experience, like same type of nerves going into your pro fight as your amateur, or at that point you were just kind of like, I mean, I already know what I'm getting into. I just have to execute my game plan and go from there.
Yeah, I think I was pretty like mentally. I was there mentally and physically compared to my first amateur fight. Um, I, I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but I don't really care what people think about my like if I win or lose. Like if I lose, whatever. The most important people are going to be with me, and everyone else, if they don't want to follow me or whatever, then that's their choice. But I'm there to perform and have the best performance that I can. So at that moment, I was very happy to compete, and whether I won or lost, as long as I did my best, then that was good. And I kind of keep that mentality from my first fight all the way to my Dana White Contender Series fight, and it helped me a lot. It takes a lot of nerves. I still get nervous, but yeah, it doesn't really bother me if I didn't get the win or not. So.
Definitely. And then, I mean, right after your first pro fight, you just went on a tear, dude. So like you went 7-0, and then you fought most of your career for King of the Cage, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you fought most of your career for King of the Cage, and then your one fight before the whole COVID pandemic hit was for the Ohio. I could be butchering this, but it was it the Ohio League fighting league or something like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's okay. The Ohio Combat League. Yeah, that was my fight before this one. Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, first fight, title fight, man. So how was that? So you just went in and, I mean, you won. So how was it? How was it? How was the feeling of actually, getting your first title in the sport?
Yeah, it was really cool. I was really excited to accept that type of fight. It was pretty cool. I took before that I took an amateur wrestling fight or match. I should say. My jiu-jitsu coach, Roy McDonald, before the thing, he was putting on these wrestling shows called Luchador or Luchador. I could be butchering that too, but Luchador, and it was just like a wrestling show dedicated for the wrestlers. So they'd have like a big event, and I was asked to compete on it. I wasn't very good at it, but it was a cool experience. I didn't win that, but like I said, it was just an amateur show, and I learned a lot from it. And then my manager called me before I was walking out saying that I had a fight and it was a title fight. And I was just super pumped to hear about it. So it was really cool. And most of my amateur fights were in Ohio. So it was pretty cool to take the trip back over there. There's a lot of people that I know, a lot of fans, and it was cool to fight there again.
That's awesome, brother. And then, obviously the pandemic hit, and then, yeah, you get the call for the Contender Series. So, when was that? And moment you got the call was, what went through your mind where you're just like, oh man, I need to get some training partners quick, because I know most of the schools were probably closed. I mean, in America they were. I don't know about in Canada. I don't know what the restrictions are over there, but yeah, man, like once you got the call, was it just like a panic, like, oh, I need to start training right now, or were you already training with teammates and all that?
I was always training.
Mm,
I made like a little gym in my house here, and my brother was helping me with pads. I was doing bag work, lots of running, um, and actually, someone else who signed with Dodge Sports, they had like this whole running thing for the month of May, I believe. So you had to run 100 kilometers in the month of May. So I was doing that as like a little motivation and challenge, and then I just kept it going until my fight. So that really helped me a lot. And then yeah, just hitting pads. And then once the fight got a little bit closer, and I signed a contract and everything, I started having small group training. So I'd invite 3 or 4 people to train with, to do sparring, and I would just specifically train with those people at the gym. And other than that, that was pretty much it. So just to keep safe, I don't want to go all the way to Vegas and test positive for COVID. So I made sure that I had small group training, and everything else was pretty good.
that's awesome, man. And then you get to Vegas, and I mean, this has always been a question of mine every time I watch like a Contender Series, and like how that whole week goes about, because they go through the interviews, and I'm guessing especially with the whole pandemic, you have to take a bunch of tests. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just go talk about that for a little bit, and yeah, how's the a normal fight week for a Contender Series fight go? Go ahead, your experience.
Um, yeah, so for the Contender Series, they asked you to get there on the Saturday, and then you would fight on the Tuesday. But I went a little bit earlier. I went about a week earlier, and I stayed at my own hotel for the week, and then my coaches came a little bit later. So I was kind of hanging out. I trained at the PI a little bit, just to move around, get loose. It's fight week, so it's not like I'm going to be improving too much. Just losing the weight, sweating, running, all that. And other than that, it was pretty easy. Once I got to the fighters hotel, it was pretty much all quarantine, a lot of Uber Eats, and just relaxing because you can't really go anywhere. And other than that, it was pretty relaxing. Everything was professional. There was no issues. Like it was like the best of the best by far, and there was no problems at all. Yeah, just a lot of sitting around watching TV, playing video games. Nothing too interesting goes on, especially now. If it was maybe a regular fight week without the pandemic, it would be a little bit different, but just kind of hanging out.
Sorry, it was lagging a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, no. So I mean, like you said, you're eating Uber Eats. I mean, hopefully it wasn't anything bad hopefully it was after the weight cut and it wasn't anything bad. But I mean, you want to say, was it Burger King or was it?
Uh, no, it was just there's a place called Farm Boys. I ordered from there. They have like you can make your own salads and stuff with chicken and all that. So it's just all healthy eating. And then my coaches would order whatever they want. It didn't really bother me. But yeah, nothing too special. And then after I had some burgers and all that after the fight, so I made up for it for
There you
sure.
go. There you go. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, how was it? How was it working at the PI? Was that your first time there, or you've been there before? Like, what because, I was talking to like Johnny Munoz for my previous interview, and he said that it was a state of the art facility. They go through a bunch of tests. It's like legitimate stuff you see out of the movies. It's like they're just a bunch of fighters just walking through. So, like, was it the same experience for you, or?
Yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of fighters there. I didn't want to be too starstruck because there's a lot of people like Kamaru Usman was there, Kevin Gastelum was there, Cody Garbrandt was there. So there's like a bunch of like top fighters in the world that were there. So I just kind of acted cool, just the same as them, and yeah, it was cool. The experience was cool. I didn't did do too much. Like it's not like I had a trainer or whatever putting me through circuits, stuff like that. I was kind of just doing bag work, running on the treadmill, just losing the weight. I met Forrest Griffin. It was pretty cool. We talked a little bit. And yeah, other than that, it was just a really beautiful place. And one day I can't wait to go there and train and like specific for a fight, like weeks before and all that. So I definitely recommend it to any up and coming fighters who are in the UFC. So.
Definitely. And then, I mean, I'm just gonna touch upon like one little thing about the fight because, like I said earlier, you're probably just so sick talking about the fight. In that third round, you're just killing Mike Breeden with those leg kicks. And was there anything? I mean, anything going in through your mind that you just like after like the fifth leg kick, you're just like, yo, how is this dude not down? Like I mean, because he was just stumbling all over the place after because you can see that he was hurting. So, yeah, what was your mindset seeing that he was still fighting, still going strong, and yeah.
Honestly, I wasn't surprised. After the first couple kicks, I knew that he was going to be tough, especially what was at stake. I didn't really expect him to just quit or just fall to the ground. So it was a great fight. He put on a great fight, and yeah, like a lot of people are saying, oh, you should have just got the finish and blah blah blah. But it's a lot harder
Definitely.
to do it compared to saying it. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of things going on. And it's not like I stopped kicking him. Like I continue to kick him. And it's just, you got to be smart in this game. And you can't just, it's not a street fight where you just got to go and think that the fight's going to end in 30 seconds and people are going to separate you and all that. You got to be very smart and tactical in this game. And a lot of people don't know that. So I was definitely looking for the finish. He doesn't want to finish on the Contender Series, but unfortunately, it didn't go my way in that case. But I'm very happy that I did get the win, and my performance was very good. So
It was very good. I mean, everyone can agree with me that you should have gotten that contract, but I mean, unfortunately, you didn't. So, what's the next move? So, is it are you gonna fight for any other promotions in the meanwhile, or is it kind of just like wait and see, just train, see what your manager brings up to your table, and go from there? So, what's your next move?
right now, I believe it's like 30 days or something like that. You have to wait after your fight because you're like clause to the UFC or something like that. I don't even know. It's in the contract, but yeah. So I have to wait, and then once that time period is up, then we can talk with other promotions, or if the UFC wants to re-sign me or whatever, or sign me first, and then we'll see what goes on. But right now, I'm not in too much of a rush to jump into another fight. I probably had more fights than a lot of people had this year. Some people haven't even gotten a fight, but this is my second fight this year, so I'm pretty thankful. And I would like to get one more by the end of the year, but hopefully it's with a short notice call with the UFC. And if not, then I'm willing to talk to other promotions. But right now, my eyes are set on UFC.
Definitely, man, definitely. And then, yeah, I mean, just a couple last things. So I just want to touch upon. So, you're Canadian, but you're also Salvadorian. So, are you both of your parents Salvadorian, or?
Just my father. My mom's from Canada.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, because I mean, it's always nice seeing. So, like, my family's from Honduras, so like, it's always
Okay,
nice
cool.
seeing. Yeah, it's always nice seeing. Central America, and people put Central America at the top. So when you won, and you're like, "Yo, El Salvador, stand up!" A little smile came on my face when I saw that. So I was just like, "Hey, my neighbor right there."
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, a lot of people forget about it, but it's there.
Yeah, no,
We're
it's there.
strong.
So,
So
so it's awesome to see, someone that's Central American, put in El Salvador, put in Honduras, Guatemala, all those countries combined at the top. So it's always awesome to see. And yeah, man, like I said, like I said earlier, thank you for taking the time to do this interview. It really means a lot. This is what I want to do as a career. So, hopefully we can reconnect in the future. Especially after hopefully your UFC fight, your UFC debut,
yeah,
and
yeah.
thank you again, brother. So it really means a lot. And yeah, man, best of wishes and stay safe out there, brother.
Thank you so much, you too, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, sir, brother. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
You too.